I'm Outreach Librarian for the Rare and Special Collections here at McGill, and today I'm going to show you how to play The Baker's Dozen. The rules for this come from a book that was published in 1884. It's called Dick's Games of Patience, or Solitaire with Cards. And there are 64 different types of solitaire in this book. It is digitized. There's a link in the description. You can check out all the different versions of this. I chose this one because it requires only one deck of cards. So how to play. Some key terms for solitaire. One is foundations. That's what they call the 4 base points from which you build up. Usually it's aces or kings, like this one, or you'll have 4 aces. Second, he uses the word marriage. That's putting a card in sequence next to, for instance, this would be making a marriage. You could put a 2 on a 3. Marriages in this particular form of solitaire don't have to follow suit. So those are the key terms, and now how to play. So for this version of solitaire, it's called the Baker's Dozen, and I'm going to do shuffle, and I'll show you how to set up. This one is pretty simple. It only requires 1 deck of cards. You're going to build your foundation stacks up from aces to kings in ascending order. The rest of the cards you're going to have dealt out in 13 piles. So 1, 2, 3, 13 piles of 4 to be precise. So I have 13 piles of 4. I'm going to flip the top card on all of these piles. And, although I'm going slightly off camera here, this is the first stage of setup. Any aces or I would put directly into my first foundation column. So I'm going to build up in sequence, starting with the aces for each suit. So I would play 2, 3, 4, 5 up all the way to king when I get an ace. If I had any kings that had turned up on the top of my piles, I would immediately have to take them and put them on the bottom of that pile. So for all of these piles, you can always play the top card, which once you play it, it liberates the card underneath. So we can go on, and the method of play is quite simple. It's what you'd expect. Now, your foundation piles have to go up in sequence. You can make what Dick calls marriages. These ones don't have to follow suit, so you can stack any card on another card regardless of suit or color. That said, you do usually want to keep as much as possible your marriages in the suit because it serves you better later when you are transferring them to the foundation piles. So what you can do is then form as many marriages as possible to liberate as many cards as possible to try and build up those 4 suits all the way from ace to king. These marriages always have to go in descending sequence, opposite of your foundations. And that actually is all there is to this form of solitaire. It can be quite tricky because you don't have a pack to deal. So you have only what's on the table to work with. And I don't know what your odds of success would be, but we'll see together if I have any. So you would keep playing. I've turned up a king, so now I immediately actually have to put that king on the bottom of my packet. It's the only other outstanding rule in this game. This one starts at 10, 5, so I've got some 7s I can move, and play continues in that way. You can also feel free to move your marriages to make them follow suit more closely as you move through the game. And so far I have only found 1 ace, which is not boding well for my success. The other thing that's useful to point out is if I move this, if I've gotten to the bottom of the packet, if I actually move this out, I can't use this space anymore to build marriages. So sometimes it's not the best choice to move that away because I can still form marriages on this space when there's a card there. If I move it away, I can't do that anymore. So, just a note of caution. Woohoo! So I have a second foundation and start to play cards onto that one as well. Ooh, and a third. And now you can just watch me play out the end of the match. and we'll see if I'm successful or not. A lot of these games in Dick's Game of Patience, the odd will actually say in the instructions that this is quite a difficult patience. And take that as a note of warning that you won't be successful all that often. I'm gonna make it, look at that. And there we have the successful patience. Ends with a king on top, all of the cards stacked in suit. So that is how you play the Baker's Dozen. There are variations of the Baker's Dozen in Dick's Game of Solitaire, and I encourage you to try them out. You might need to buy 2 full decks of cards to try out some of these games, but it is well worth your time. If you enjoy a round of Solitaire, here's a new one you can try.